Hey Tom, thank you for joining us today, brother. This is perfect. For those that don't know, Tom, otherwise known as Bull Ayers, is a multidisciplinary artist. If I'm not mistaken, we'll get into the whole line and I'll let you talk for yourself about it. But tattoo artist, sneaker customizer, went to the shoe surgeon school and learned all about making sneakers yourself. And I think that you also have them you work with factories as well now, right, Tom?
Yep. Upscaled and working with factories. That was a long process of getting the factory that I wanted the best. So,
Ah,
yeah.
Perfect. Well, I want to get into all of it too. I know
Yeah.
you did NFTs, you've done it in the digital space. I know if anybody goes on Bull Air's social media, I think you have multiple accounts actually. They're both doing phenomenally.
Yeah.
But like awesome digital creation as well. So Tom, thank you for joining us, brother.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. It's a blast. I know we all run in the same circle, so it's amazing to be on here and talking with you guys.
Do the people a quick favor first, Tom. Grab anything behind you and just let the camera see real quick.
Yeah, please.
These are the Pee Wee Hermans that Paul Rubin actually has a pair of these now.
Oh, that's awesome.
No way.
Yeah, I made a pair for David Arquette, a pair of Dewey shoes from Scream, and he's friends with Paul. And when he saw these, he got a hold of Paul, and Paul wanted a pair. So, Pee Wee Herman actually has a pair of these now, which is really cool.
No way.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so sick. Okay, so Tom, let's start kind of at the beginning, but not the actual beginning. So we've talked about how we've gotten into art a little bit and how some of our early interests have inspired the work that we're doing now. So when you were younger, what were your interests and how did those relate back into a career in art?
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I like a lot of you guys, I grew up watching Saturday morning cartoons, and honestly, a lot of the first stuff I remember drawing would be like Bugs Bunny, a lot of Looney Tunes stuff. I was really big and obsessed with drawing the cartoon characters from the cereal boxes, like Captain Crunch and the Rice Krispie guys. So I would draw all those a lot. So that's my first memory of recreating artwork from from pop culture. So that was super young, a long time ago.
Now, Tom, are you drawing those just sort of on your own, or is this what you're doing in the middle of class and not paying attention? Were you one of those that was just drawing all day in school?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was always drawing, doodling. I had my art book with me the entire time. I remember in high school, because for a long time I wanted to go to work at Disney to be an animator. And all my teachers knew that, and a lot of the teachers. I remember my one math teacher, Mr. I can't remember his last name, but we'll just call him Kaz. But he would let me draw in class, and as long as I made him a drawing at the end of each class, he'd be like, well, I'll give you a little leeway. So he kind of fed the fire, I guess you'd say.
Dude, what a sick teacher. Oh my God. That's how all teachers should be. When they find those golden kids, they're they know what they want to do and they love doing it. Just hey, just fucking don't worry about this stuff.
That kid in the back drawing isn't distracting the rest of the class. You know what I mean?
Bullshit.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, but sorry to cut you off.
No, you're
good. So if you were doodling back then and doing that kind of jazz, so can you give a brief overview for people that really aren't aware of what you do now and your journey at all? What do you specialize in, and what would you consider yourself to I guess just talk a little bit about your work now.
Yeah, so now it really is, there's a couple different sections of what I do. First and foremost, I do custom shoes. So I design, your shoe. I always say, what's your dream shoe? I can make it. So you come to me and say, hey, I want a, earthworm gym shoe. Obviously I made those, but so I'll come back and I draw on my Procreate over my templates of whatever shoe you want. And then I come back to you, and then you basically say, oh, I like this, let's tweak this. And it really is a collaborative process. I like to tell them that we're creating the shoe together, you know what I mean? And I really want them to have the insight, because, one, they're paying a lot of money for the shoe. So I really think I want them to have their dream shoe. So we work together, we design the shoe, I make the shoe. The one of ones, 100% made by me. Like I said, I took I took the shoe surgeon Dom's course, so I've learned how to remake a shoe from scratch. So when you're getting those one-to-one commissions, one, you're paying for the exclusivity that nobody else is going to get this shoe, unless you specify. There has been some people that were like, "Hey, I really like this shoe. I think other people should have this." Like the Green Power Ranger one I made recently.
Mhm.
That guy was like, "Hey, I think everybody should have this." So that one is available for other people to buy. But for the most part, it's a one of one. So I do a lot of those. I open them up on January 1st and August 1st. And I usually do between 30 and 40 commissions of what those are. And then I also have on the side, I like to drop at least 1 to 3 pairs of shoes that are done. I design them. I send out my tech packs to the factory, and then I have the factory make them. And then those are limited releases. So those could be anywhere from 20 pairs to 100 pairs.
Huh.
Yeah. So I have those. And then I also am constantly like making, I like to say I make the clothes that I'd want to wear. So I design like t-shirts and hoodies, and a lot of them are hoodies and jackets that I want to wear personally. And then I drop those a few times a month too. And so far I've been pretty lucky with those. It seems like everybody's on the same wavelength as me, that they want to wear and kind of represent the nerdy stuff that I like to do too. So it's kind of, and now we're getting into, I don't know if you saw like my video of me at the last convention last weekend, but I have a guy that's in Canada. He goes by Surreal Studios, and he created me a cartoon, My Pet Monster. And I'm going to be selling a limited release of those exclusively through Bolairs in July, I believe it is. So we're going to have our own plush toy. And then I'm also getting, I'm creating Bolairs, like they're called sneakerheads, and they're like almost like mad balls. You can shove them in your shoes for display purposes and stuff like that. So I'm getting in the toy world too. So I'm branching everywhere.
Renaissance man.
Tom, what do you do to turn your brain off?
I go to sleep. That's about it.
That's about the only time that you're not thinking about work.
I literally have a notepad on my phone, and I'm constantly like, when I'm, I watch a lot of YouTube videos of people like going to toy shows and, toy hunting and things like that. And I'm constantly like, oh, that'd be a cool t-shirt. So I'm constantly writing things down nonstop.
Huh. Dude, it's so fascinating to me. Like when we have people on, or even whenever I just talk to Dylan and Sean too, every episode I try to find like a new, kind of a new angle about the person, something interesting that like hasn't presented itself in the past that I think people would really want to hear about, that really that person is the only one who can offer it. And I've talked to Dylan about how much I admire and how inspiring like his business practices are, and his ability to like understand, recognize, and then implement a solution towards the problems of the customizing community. And that's one of the things that like I've always been amazed with about you Bolairs, because honestly, like it's kind of the same thing I've told Sean this too, but like I love nerd culture, but like the types like TMNT stuff and all the comic book stuff, I never had an interest in really. I just love the culture behind it. I just think it's awesome.
I won't hold it against you.
Yeah, okay, I appreciate that. So like I guess the reason I bring this up is because it's really fascinating. Like all my interest comes from like your ability to create and bring different products to life, like find the manufacturers for them and understand like your community and the business practices and the supply chain side of things. You seem to have done really well, and like I'm wondering if that is a partially a product of like your background in tattooing, because I know tattooing is very like rigorous as far as business practices go as well.
Yep.
Or if you could just explain like what goes into finding and establishing some of these products that you just talked about too, because that shit's awesome to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to like, with tattooing, it's on a commission basis. So I've been doing, I tattooed for 17 years, so I'm used to the hustle of, you're constantly out there working, you're putting, nose to the grindstone. I was going to like one convention at least a month every year, just promoting yourself, doing tattoos. I'm real big on the grassroots, get out there, show people what you do, and that's how you get more clients. And that's kind of the same approach that I do with the with the shoe side is I'm going to a lot of these conventions, and I'm also going to a lot of non-sneaker conventions. I'm going to Comic Cons and tattoo conventions, you know, but mainly Comic Cons. I'm going to a lot of those and toy shows because that's the demographic of my
shoes are for.
Yeah, those are my people. And when they see these shoes, because a lot of those people are just used to seeing, you know, your basic Nikes or Adidas or New Balance. They're not, and again, those brands, you know, as amazing as they are, they're not very creative on the larger scale. So when they see my stuff in front of them, they're like, "Holy cow, this is wow!" Yeah, and they're, you know, I got them, you know, got them hook, line, and sinker. So I just reel them in. But I'm used to just, you know, working and, you know, put your feet on the pavement and run, you know, that's kind of how my approach is, you know. And then with the factory side, I really just, I'm a friends with a lot of toy makers and independent toy makers, as far as the toy thing that I'm getting into. So like, I really just reached out to them and said, "Hey, who's your supplier? Who do you recommend?" And then you go to them. And like right now with the Mad Ball, the sneakerhead thing, I'm working with, I just sent them the sketches that my artist created for me, and they're doing like a 3D ZBrush modeling for it right now.
Sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then they'll create a plastic mold from that. And then I got to approve that. You know, usually it's, you know, I just started the process of the sneakerhead stuff right now. So it's probably like a good 2 months turnaround till you get a product in your hand, like a sample and, you know, stuff like that. And then on top of that, I'm also creating the packaging. So I went to school for visual communications, so I know how to do packaging and all that good stuff too. And that's also that works into like my social media promoting and stuff like that, because, you know, I went to school for, you know, marketing and stuff like that, you know. So that although Instagram wasn't around in 1999, it still transfers over, and it's a pretty easy flip. So yeah, I guess the main, if I can give anybody advice out there, just hustle, work.
Yeah, you crush it on your socials, Tom. Your Instagram and everything is amazing, man. So
well, that's the first thing I learned, and I'm Dylan, I'm sure you're the same way, is presentation is everything. I think my main gripe with a lot of sneaker customizers and stuff like that is they take the laziest photos, the laziest videos. Like, I can't tell you how many times I see some awesome shoes that are just put on the ground with it and just taking a shitty photo. And they're like, "Check out my shoes." I'm like, "Those are amazing, but that photo is crap," you know?
Yeah. Or on their bed sheets or something, you know?
Yeah, it's like presentation. Presentation is everything, you know?
Yeah. Tom, I have so many questions for you, man. I think for a long time I've said, very much as an outsider, that to me there seems to be a lot of similarities between the custom sneaker world and the tattoo world. But I'm saying that very much blindly because I'm not somebody who's in the tattoo world, still a tattoo virgin, unfortunately. But just as an outsider, I do see a lot of similarities. So
there is.
I have a ton of questions based around that, but one that I'd like to, a spicy one I'd like to get started with is, what is something that you think tattooers do much better than customizers, and what is something that you think sneaker customizers do much better than tattooers? And maybe that's, you know, just an understanding of color theory from the tattoo side. Maybe it's like the presentation stuff that we talked about it in, you know, with custom shoes. What are some of those things that separate it, you think?
Well, I think a big thing that I learned with tattooing, especially later on in my career, is I learned a lot of color theory and a lot of just art, like how to lay out a piece of 2D art on a three-dimensional skin, which very much transfers over to the shoes. I learned about like non-regional color and a lot of these quote unquote art school terms. So I think, you know, learning when you look at a tattoo, what do you want your eye to draw to first? And a lot of that transfers over to what I'm doing with the shoes. So like when you see the shoe, I want you to see this part of the shoe first. And a lot of that is the color and the motion. There really is a lot that goes into it. I know a lot of people think it's pretty easy, but it's not, you know what I mean? To do it right and to do it subtle sometimes. Sometimes I do some wild, crazy shoes, and sometimes I do really subtle ones. But sometimes less is more in that case, you know? As far as like, you know, I think like you were saying, I think the customer relation to the artist is very much similar. The tattoo customer tells the artist what they want, You kind of sit down, you do your different versions of it, and then you come back to the client and you show them, and then you go, there's a back and forth. At least it was with me,
Yeah.
and I see that same dynamic with the shoes and talking to the customer and stuff like that too. So I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
So, dude, so just I want to piggyback off of one of the things you said too, Tom, because you were talking about understanding the volume and the way that a piece is going to move on somebody's arm or on wherever it is on their body, on their ribs and whatnot. And that's one thing that I think I wish more sneaker artists would take advantage of, is the understanding that, like, even with a tattoo, it feels like you're going to present it to somebody. Like if somebody says like, oh, is that your tattoo? Then you're like, yeah, this is my fucking tattoo. And you show them what you want them to see. And with sneakers, more often than not, it's not like that. It's like somebody sees your shoes from whatever angle they see your shoes, and you're always top down on it. So you'll always see a different view. And I think that's one of the huge advantages of shoes. And I don't think people take advantage of that, is like, what is this going to look like from different perspectives? And can I create a totally different feel depending on what it is?
100% is that. So like, I think of that. So my buddy, John, always gives me, like, I'll send him some of my mock-ups and he goes, that looks like this character from this angle. But when I see the back of it, I don't know what this is. So I always, from looking at just the heel or looking at just the inside lateral, like every time you look at a different angle, you need to know what that is.
Yeah, no, precisely. Yeah, that's why. So sorry to interrupt, Dylan, but I just want to say, like, I think Sean does that incredibly well. And like,
oh my God, yes.
He'll tell a whole different. Sean was actually one of the people that inspired me to think about it a lot more, and we never even really talked about it, because Sean tells totally different stories and gives me totally different feels depending on what part of the shoe you're looking at. So like the outside shoe may be the character, but the inside may be like text bubbles and like setting and a totally different colorway. And it all makes sense together as one shoe. But like when you only see it from one angle, you're like, what the fuck? Like that's not at all what I saw on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think so often with with sneaker designing, we're used to just sort of designing in 2D. Any templates you look up, you're always just practicing and designing in 2D, but then you got to remember that this is going to be viewed in a 3D world and people are going to see it from different angles. And like Sean does, you can convey different emotions and different things. So yeah, I'm sure that's something unique about, a tattoo. And as somebody who's a huge Ink Master fan, Tom, I know this was always talked about, composition and things like that, and how,
flow.
Just you can't, the way that you would tattoo a deltoid isn't going to be the same thing that you would do, on an upper quad or whatever. It's going to be different. You're going to have to change and tweak things.
Yep, exactly.
Tom, I got a question for you. Being honest, when you create new designs, do you create designs like I'm sure when you first started, I was looking way back in your Instagram, and like when you're doing shoes during the shoe surgeon school, then it's like whatever you want to create, like it's only about you. And now after years of doing this and doing design after design, you have such a deep understanding of what your community wants. When you're creating designs, are you creating them for you, or are you creating them for them at this point?
No, it's a good question, because I toy with this a lot, because so like, the Earthworm Gems, I have these haven't been announced yet, but I have a Biker Mice from Mars shoe coming. I have a Bucky O'Hare shoe coming. I did a Captain Planet shoe. Now those aren't shoes that sell a lot. They just aren't. Those are, so I have my bread and butter, which would be like the Ninja Turtle shoes and Star Wars and things like that, Marvel. Those are always going to sell. And I love those shoes too. But then I have, so basically I put out, say that Ninja Turtle shoe, and that sells a bunch. Then I basically do my passion projects, like a Biker Mice from Mars, where I might only sell 10 pairs, but that's the shoe I wanted to make, and those 10 people are going to really love that shoe, because I know that those 10 people are diehard Biker Mice from Mars, fans. So so I really just I toy with both of them. I basically in the end design what I want, but I also am kind of aware of what the public wants, and right now anything Ninja Turtles, people are eating it up.
Sean, did you
What?
notice the same thing?
Huh?
Did you notice the same thing?
Notice what?
Like with TMNT?
What do you mean? What about it? That they sell out?
Yeah, well, just that's where like the interest is
I
for
mean,
your
well, yeah,
shoes.
there's a market for it. It's just, I mean, I kind of do the same thing. Like I make some for me, I make some for other people, right? Like Street Sharks is, popular, but it's not as popular as, Ninja Turtles.
Mm-hmm.
It's same with Biker Mice. Well, Biker Mice, which one are you doing? Are you doing all three? What's your who's your favorite?
Throttle's my favorite. So I'm doing Throttle and I'm trying and Vinny. So each foot is one's Throttle, one's Vinny.
Yeah.
I can send you pictures later.
Throttle was my guy. I went through the cycle of all three. I think Vinny's currently my favorite. I don't know why. The street bike, bro. The red street bike. Akira vibes.
No, 100%.
Zach doesn't know what we're talking about, just so you know.
Okay, first of all, you are correct. I have no idea what the biker maestro is. But I do know Akira.
Akira's great.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give you that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
There
come
you
on,
go.
please give me some
We
crop.
got
Kudos
one nerd point.
I was telling, so these guys know, Tom, but my nerddom definitely comes in like fantasy series. So like Harry Potter, like anything by Tolkien, Star Wars, not as much. I'm getting more into sci-fi now, but I didn't really grow up like caring much about Star Wars. But I love video game culture. I love like trading card games. And actually that's like one of my big goals is to create my own like art centered trading card game, TCG.
Okay.
And so that's where like my nerd fucking castle lives. Like anything in that sphere, I love it. Yeah. So I would love, I don't even know if this is anything that your audience would enjoy or if you enjoy this kind of thing, but anything like Magic the Gathering related or anything like that.
Yeah, all my people, they love everything, fantasy, sci-fi. I would love to do a Willow pair of shoes or Game of Thrones, stuff like that. Yeah.
God, bro, it's fucking awesome. I love it.
Tom, I got another one for you on sneakers versus tattoo share. What do you think? What could be learned? What could each side learn about how to price, your time when doing a tattoo versus price your time when doing a one-of-one custom shoe? What do you do differently when pricing one versus the other?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing I learned definitely, like I said, I tattooed 17 years. So, usually I think by year 10, I was like, listen, I put in my dues. I know what I'm worth, and so, at that point, I, was able to say, in my area, I can charge this amount of money for this, this area and get it, and especially, then when I got on TV, then obviously I could charge a little bit more because you were on TV. But really it's knowing your worth. I think a lot of shoe customizers don't charge what they should. If you're putting in all this time and you're away from your family and you're doing all these things, like everybody wants money, but I think that right now the thing that's the most precious in the world is time. So like if you're spending your time to work on the shoes, you should be paid accordingly.
Yeah.
So,
I got a question too, if you don't mind. Would you say or agree that people are more willing to spend higher end, amounts of money for a tattoo as opposed to a sneaker?
yeah, I definitely think that people that I definitely think that people value, they think that the tattoo, because it's permanent, it's on you, that they're more willing to spend that higher value on that than there's still some people that go, it's just a shoe, put it on your feet and walk out the door, you know what I mean? But I think there's it's starting to turn around now, and I think a lot of that has to do with all you guys, and me, people seeing that there really is, it is an art form. Yeah, you can put it on your shelf with your collection, and I always tell everybody, put it on the shelf, get an acrylic case, put it on the shelf right next to your collection, bust it out for the Comic-Con or that shoe show you're going to, wear it, show it off, take it home, clean it off nicely, put it back on the shelf. I think once people really start seeing that it's art and they're going to value it just as much as the tattoos. But for right now, I think that tattoos are valued a lot higher than what custom shoes are.
Dude, I'm wondering that I just fucking something just popped in my head which I thought was hilarious. So like, I think part of the reason why might be because of the permanence of tattoos. It's like I might be able to get the same exact tattoo for $1,000 as somebody else charging $5,000. But if the person charging $5,000 has a track history and I can see that they've created like incredible pieces of art over and over again, then I'm like, I'm paying extra $4,000. I'm like, this shit's on me forever. I'm not fucking around with this.
Yeah, but it's on you forever, but is it forever?
No,
it's
it's
not.
Yeah, that's honestly true.
Yeah, but then again, these shoes aren't forever either. You see the videos of like the Air Jordan 4s, turning into cake, and falling apart and stuff like that too. So nothing is forever.
Well, now,
but Zach, I agree with your statement. I feel, when I first started off doing my customizing, I priced a lot lower than what I thought I was worth, because I knew I didn't have a catalog for people to go back and look at all my stuff. Now, you can go back through 2 years and you can see the quality, the customer satisfaction. We have a bunch of Facebook groups and I have a street team now. So like everybody can go there and see that it's legit and I can do what I promise. And I think, that also, creates a demand. And then, I can, I think as far as customizing too, I charge, I think on the low end, you know what I mean? Like Dom at Sneaker Surgeon, he's charging $5,000 to $10,000 for shoes. And, I think I charge $1,300, for a pair. And I think that's with what you're getting. I think that's a pretty good deal.
Is that $1,300 for like a one of one, like a bespoke pair?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I was to finish the train of thought before I forget it too, because you were talking about how you went to school for marketing, and when we were talking about the price difference between tattoos and shoes, I was like, this reminds me of the whole like the greatest marketing plan of all time, or marketing a scheme where it was talking about diamonds and talking about how diamonds are forever, and that's the reason that everybody needs to get a diamond for their spouse now. And I was like, I wonder if that's ever going to happen, where for shoes, where it's like somebody's going to not create a shoe that lasts forever, but create a brand that has a message and a meaning that isn't ephemeral, something that you aren't going to bring out, once every so often, and then that moment is fleeting, but something that you can feel consistently like aggressive beauty towards, something you are passionate about having all the time. And I'm like, it's good to.
I think that falls into the Nike brand. I mean, that's my favorite brand. Love it or hate it for a lot of reasons, but I love their silhouettes. I love the Nike swoosh. I love all that stuff. So I think that really fits into what you're saying, because I think that's something that will last a lifetime. And when you see it, you're passionate about it.
Right. Tom, have you always been into shoes in general?
Yeah. Dude, I remember. So I was a skateboarder when I was a lot skinnier and younger, and I remember buying SB Dunks when they first came out, and I remember skating with them on. I had a pair of Tiffany's, and I wrecked those. Like I skated in them,
That's what they were for.
Yeah, exactly. I wore them to skateboard in. So yeah. And then before that, even while I was tattooing, I still get commissions for people wanting me to paint, Vans or Chucks. So I was always doing that before I got into the full reconstruction stuff.
And with the downfall of Jordan, according to Zach here.
I'm just saying it's not the downfall, it's the end of an era.
No, it's not.
That's all I'm saying.
Wait, what do you think the end of Jordan is? Like what caused it?
So
Zach thinks it's already here.
Oh
yeah. Zach.
All right.
He's
just to be
good stuff, bro.
Just to be clear, just to set the record straight, Tom, I love your take on this too. So we were talking about some of the hot takes that people presented, and one of the hot takes somebody says that's the end of the Jordan era of shoes, and these guys thought it was ridiculous. I thought that it was probably true, And the reason why is because the conversation, even though Jordans are by far the most sold, or I guess Nike in general, but Jordan specifically are like an incredibly popular shoe, possibly still the most popular shoe in the world. But I argue that sales don't necessarily equate to relevancy, and that the conversation has been off of Jordans for several years now. And most of the important collaborations and designers coming up and paving the way through modern culture are through really almost every other brand, especially like the New Balance.
I do agree with that. Like, this is the argument so as much as I love Nike, as far as collaborations, it's shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think, Reebok with all their brands like Nerf and Jurassic World, and even today I'm trying to think what the hell it was called. There was some other brand. Oh my God, what the hell was it called? I can't remember what it was called, but it had Rocco's Modern World. They did a collab with, like, all these other companies. Puma with He-Man, and like all these other companies are actually getting more creative. They're venturing out. They're getting these IPs and they're working with them. But Nike, they're some of the laziest themes and collabs I've ever seen.
Because they can
exactly.
They don't have to.
Yeah,
but that's the point.
They don't, because
how
you have to think about it is Nike in general, but Jordan, all of it is culture based, right? So it's never going anywhere. Like when you think of Jordan, that's hip hop culture. It's black culture. It's never going anywhere. You have SB Dunks, that's skateboard culture. It's not going anywhere. So Nike doesn't have to do collabs, because regardless of what they do, they're going to sell a product, because their products are instilled in cultures. So people that are part of that culture are always going to buy those shoes.
It's a part of that forever legacy Zach was talking about.
Yeah, and I get that too. But I also feel that that's a little bit lazy on their end, because I think they could push the boundary. They can do things. Now they just do the bare minimum, and because they know it will sell. I
mean, every major company is lazy. I mean, if you look at Disney, Marvel, I mean, they don't have to, so they don't.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's a problem, but yeah.
I think a great example of that is Zion Williamson being one of their biggest athletes, ton of eyes on him, and he's a huge anime fan. And he's done a couple different shoes that I know were Naruto based, and they just have absolutely nothing on there. And it's like, this is the anime subculture has just grown so much. You have one of the biggest stars in the NBA, who's unfortunately always hurt, but has a ton of eyes on him that so many people could look up to and be like, that's one of us. He's a young dude. That dude is just like me. You could see yourself in him. And
every time they posted about those shoes, everybody ripped them. They're like, this is the laziest, trade.
Yeah.
This is the laziest anime shoe I've ever seen. Yeah.
Yeah. And the one shoe of his, he had a custom pair that was painted. I can't remember what shoe it was on. I think maybe a Jordan 3. And I can't remember the artist who did. Was it Air Forces? Okay, you might be right. Forgive me. And I can't remember who did them either, but those got way more, buzz and had a lot more people talking because they were actually, done by an artist.
The funny thing too is I always hear these big industries and businesses, they say, oh, we can't mass produce that. And I think that's a bunch of bullshit, because I work with a lot of factories and I know what they can mass produce. So I think that's a cop out too, when they use that too.
That's even if it's like a creative colorway, it doesn't have to have characters on it, but
right.
I think shoes that most of us do can also be turned into a colorway that can still be mass produced with artistic elements to it.
Yep.
I think some of the best collabs of all time are from the early days of the Nike SB era, and they never have the characters on there. They're simple colorways, the Homer Simpson pairs. They did a Simpsons pack, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they just, Nike SB always crushed it on their designs, in my opinion. And it was never the over-the-top stuff that, we're doing nowadays.
Yeah. Adidas is another company that they do really good collabs too,
Everybody thank you, Tom. Everybody ripped into me.
Ain't nothing without
no, that's not okay. No. Their sales are down.
Did you just say it's not true?
It's not true that they're nothing.
Bro, Adidas has not been relevant since early hip hop era, bro. Since Run DMC.
Sambas are massive right now.
What?
Sambas are massive
Man,
right
if
now.
if that's massive to you, then I don't know what you talking about, Willis.
You
Let me
can't
get
say
some of
they're
what you smoking.
nothing. They are
It's-
something.
Okay.
But
I mean,
it's-
obviously there's something. It's Adidas, but I'm saying if you're comparing it to a Nike, no, bro. They
Impact
just fired
in
Kanye and
pop
talking about
culture.
hiring him back.
Mhm.
yeah. It's funny when you look at the yearly, like, I don't know if you've ever seen those charts where it says, the 5 biggest brands that sold that year, and it's like Nike is way up here, and then all the other 4 are like way down here. So
Mhm.
like it's a huge divide. I agree, the Sambas are a great shoe, but I don't think they're on the same level as anything Nike's putting out.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. So I guess I said this last time too, but I guess it's a difference of value. I value the fluidity of somebody like New Balance, where they're a large company, not like Nike large, but large, and still move like an independent creator. Like the same way that you can create like all of these amazing shoes. I mean, dude, your catalog is crazy. For like the last 2 years, the amount of shoes and the quality that you've created is insane. And you compare that to a major brand, and it's pretty much New Balance. It's all these incredible creators, and they move like they're independent. And to me, I value that in the long term over somebody like Nike, where, yeah, they're ingrained in culture, but there will be new culture. Like giants fall all the time in history, all the time. Fucking Sears is gone off the face of the earth.
What part
bro.
of what's part of culture was Sears a part of, bro?
Dude,
Wasn't a part of no culture.
everybody bought everything from Sears and Roebuck's magazines.
But what was the culture that Sears was involved in?
It was
Mall culture.
yeah.
Like,
I guess
what I'm
that's
saying.
that's
Like,
a good point.
You're
Honestly,
talking about
yeah.
giants, yeah. But if you have something that's instilled in culture, bro, like as soon as you think of something, it's automatic what you're thinking about. Again, Nikes in general are hip hop culture, sneaker culture, all of that is all tied together.
Sean, is I'm also like, I agree with you 100% too, but I'm also trying to break that stereotype. You know what I mean? Like you say it's hip hop, but I'm also trying with what I'm doing is to show like you can be, a punk rock dude with Air Jordan.
Oh, well,
you know what I mean?
I'm not saying that. Yeah, absolutely. Like people can rock what they want to rock. I know there's plenty of people in different avenues that rock whatever, but when you think of sneakers in general, you're going to think of hip hop.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that that's so instilled in the culture of hip hop that, and for that to like die, hip hop have to die, and that ain't gonna happen no time soon, bro.
Mhm.
So Sean, real quick question. So this, I also am ignorant on this to a certain extent. So this is a genuine question. This is not me arguing. So like Adidas Superstars, Reebok Club C's, those 2 shoes to me over the course of hip hop history are equally as relevant, if not more relevant, than any single Nike.
No.
Like a single Nike. What's the single Nike silhouette that you would say is more relevant to both of those in hip hop history?
Yeah, Air Force One,
Air Force Ones, Jordan ones.
Yeah, like,
really?
That's what I'm saying.
Is there a song titled that?
Adidas, my Adidas? Like, I mean, because like I said, when it comes to hip hop, Adidas was popular because of Run DMC, right? Like the early era of hip hop was Adidas. After that small run, especially when Jordan really took off, Nike went to a completely different level.
But like Air Force Ones, right? Like I said, I don't fully understand, but aren't Air Force Ones attributed to like the Dre era of hip hop?
No, they're more. People wear more. Little Baby, for example, buys 10s and 20 pairs of Air Force Ones and wears only new Air Force Ones every day.
Oh no, I mean like Dre and forward, talking
about the era.
Yeah, the
early
era.
2000s.
Maybe I would say probably like mid 90s. Nelly, right?
Yeah,
Nelly
that was
the person
01.
that took it to the next level.
But like to me, that like the culture was already ingrained like well before that. What I'm saying is we're in that era, so it feels like that's all there is like Air Force Ones and Jordans. But before that, all it was like Superstars and Club C's. So like, how is that not comparable?
For how long though?
Yeah, I think Sean's trying to say that era was very fleeting.
It was very short.
Yeah,
I see.
Run DMC
it didn't have as much of an impact.
Run DMC was the same year. 85 was when those was the those superstars, I believe, and that was when Jordan entered the league.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
so as that was ending or at its peak, that's when Jordan is just about to really take off.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you 5 years of Adidas compared to 30 something years of Nike.
That's
Yeah.
fair. Tom, do you feel like is there a designer or a specific brand or specific collaboration from a brand that is inspiring to you, like your style and taste? Because to me, I think of like Adidas and Jeremy Scott, Adidas and Kerwin Williams, or Kerwin Frost, I mean, like those
Yeah.
really extravagant.
Yeah, Frost I like a lot. He's always pushing it. You know, he's just doing wild and crazy things. And I like people to do that, you know.
Is that kind of where you see yourself as history goes on, is becoming kind of more of what you're doing now and just expanding upon the roster that you have and being more detail oriented? Or where do you see like Bull Airs in the next 5 years?
Yeah, so right now I'm really creating I'm designing my own silhouette. I kind of toyed with one last year. It was called the Longhorns, because Bull Airs, the Longhorns, so they're high tops. I did a few of those. But I think that they were still borrowing a lot from the Air Jordan 4s. And I really want to create a total, like, my own soul, my own silhouette, my own, my 100%. It's, when you look at it, you go, that's Bull Airs.
Mhm.
So like right now, it's like I'm still doing the commissions and stuff for Nike, but eventually I want to transition to doing no Nikes. It's almost like what Mosh is doing, like all his runners. Like he just does his own color themes and whatever in his runners, and that's kind of what I want to do. One, because I don't have to worry about Nike coming and suing me, because I've already got too many cease and desists from a bunch of companies. And yeah, and then I also just get to really, like, play with my own designs, my own silhouettes, and then I can go. So from there, also with all these cease and desists, I've gotten to communicate with the lawyers and the licensing for these companies, and now I'm working with them, such as Viacom with Ninja Turtles. I'm talking to them right now about getting their licensing, so I can create my own designs based off their IP on my own shoes. That's where I see it, is where I'm not making any more Nikes, Adidas, any of that stuff, where it's just a Bull Airs is a Bull Airs shoe, and it just might happen to be a Star Wars themed or a Marvel themed or DC themed, and I actually have it licensed. That's where I want to be.
Now, I have a question on that specifically, Tom, for anybody who doesn't know, because I don't have the exact answer. If you did have your own silhouette, would it be a one-time purchase of a specific license for you to then do any type of Ninja Turtle stuff?
So they do. So it's broken down into like, well, you have a year licensing.
Okay.
And then they basically, you really have to break it down. Like, okay, I have the silhouette. So let's say it's a Donatello shoe. I have the Bull Airs, low top, and I'm going to sell a Donatello. They want to know what what it costs you to make the shoe. They want to know what you're going to retail it for. And then they want to know how many you're expected to sell. And then they ask for a guarantee. So let's say it's 25,000. And then they say anything above what you sell, then you have to give us, royalties on top of that.
Got
too.
Got it.
So yeah, so for each, so it's not like you get the license. It's not like you get the license and all of a sudden you can make a million shoes and
Sure.
they have to approve of it along the way too. So I have to submit my design. They have to give me notes, and I have to go back. So it's a very long process. So that's why, like, you see that something's in the works. It takes about 6 months, to get the full approval and where it's actually in your hands. So
that's cool to know. Cool to know.
Do you find that, like, when you were talking about cease and desist, do you think that's a good way to go about it, where you create what you want to create until you get a cease and desist, and then you're like, oh, I got these fuckers on the rope now, like, let's talk?
Yeah, so like I've always been I'm pretty punk rock, so I've always been under the mindset, just do it until you get their attention, because one, everyone I talk to says, listen, if they're contacting you, you're obviously doing something right, that they want a piece of it. You know what I mean? Like I know so many people that do Ninja Turtle stuff, and they don't get a cease and desist ever because they're only selling like 10 prints or 10
Not
whatever.
making any noise yet.
Exactly. If you're making enough noise that you get their attention, now you have literally their ear for them to listen to what you're talking to, because that's what happened with Viacom. Is like their lawyer contacted me and I said, oh well, funny enough, I know so and so, and Kevin Eastman is wearing my shoes, and they're like, oh well, let's connect you with licensing, work something out. Because believe it or not, there isn't like a how to license, how to get licenses. There isn't like a how-to book for that.
Yeah.
I've gone online, like literally like this week, I've sent out emails to people in DC and Hasbro and another one. One person came back and just said, hey, we only do the marketing, so we're not in charge of that, and we can't give you, like, it's a lot of behind closed doors. They don't want you to know who runs what. So it's really do it until somebody gets a hold of you, and then you have their ear. So
You can't just email license@hasbro.com, huh?
nope.
Funny story, actually, just real quick. It's kind of funny you say that, Dylan, because I had to get an out-of-state inspection for my car, and I was like, oh shit, how does somebody send in an inspection from Pennsylvania to Wisconsin? Turns out it's literally just email a picture of your past inspection to Wisconsin DMV. I was like, wow, I wish everything was like this.
Yeah, that
Holy
worked
crap.
out nicely for you.
Yeah. So, Tom, I want to piggyback off of Dylan's question too, because I think this is what you've been able to create is incredibly beautiful to me. Like when I think about all the ins and outs and all the hoops that you've had to jump through, and not only that, but also how true it is to you as a person. I think one of the biggest hurdles for people, and including myself, and something I'm in the middle of right now, is understanding who I am as an individual and how to take that and leverage that into, both ways to make money, but ways of utilizing my time properly. And to me, you are one of those people that seems like you've done that incredibly well. So I want to ask, I want to ask you, like, what advice do you have for somebody who is either younger or maybe not younger, but just starting out the journey of trying to understand who they are and apply that to something that they can make a living out of?
Well, first, I think you need to be genuine. I think the audience and the viewers and your customers, they can smell, disingenuous, nature. If you're going out there because you think, oh, well, Ninja Turtle sells, I'm not really into Ninja Turtles. Like like you said, you're not into, the cartoons and stuff like that. If tomorrow Zach came out with a Ninja Turtle shoe and he's trying to mass produce it, I'd be like, seems a little fishy. You know what I mean? Told me he's not into that. You know what I mean? Because it would just seem like a money grab. So really, it's being genuine to yourself, being authentic. I think a lot of people, the first thing I'm going to say is you need to have a social network presence. As much as I hate it, because I would love to be off the grid and not have to worry about what I'm posting every day at the same time. I have to go on there and comment and interact with all the people the second I post it, for the first hour. It's a job in that sense too. So like I would say, first be genuine. Second, you have to show engagement with your audience, with the people that are following you. And then just also transparency. There was, a couple things that happened that, really sucked, but I was very transparent. Like one, I ordered these Crane t-shirts from China, right? And they sent them and they look great, but they sent them in Asian sizes. So they're 2 sizes too small. So everybody was, and we should have tried them on when we first got them, but we're like, oh, these look great. So we mailed them all out. And everybody was sending us pictures with the sleeves like up to here. And they're like, did you guys label these wrong? And we're like, oh, crap. So then we checked and they're like, oh, we sent Asian sizes, the factory said. And I'm like, I'm in America. Why would I want Asian sizes? So, I immediately made a post. I said, I'm sorry. I offered refunds or exchanges. I think, being transparent and being honest about stuff, people like that a lot. You know what I mean? Customer service is key. And my wife here, who does all my emails and the shipping, and she does an amazing job. So it's
shout out to wifey.
Yep, you know what I'm talking about, Dylan. Yeah.
Tom, I got one. Or go ahead, Zach. I'm sorry.
No, keep going, bro.
Okay.
You're good.
I got one. I know this is a big topic, but maybe you can keep your answer short, but it's going to be somewhat of a long-winded question. I think in tattooing versus sort of custom shoe world, a debate of specializing and doing one thing versus being a well-rounded artist. Something I've said as an artist just in the custom shoe world is I've compared it to when somebody comes in to get a tattoo, I want to be able to handle anything they throw my way, but be able to say no because, you know, it's not what I want to do or it doesn't align with my stuff. But I don't want to ever run into the situation where somebody wants to get something and I don't have the artistry to do it. So I'm just
Yeah.
curious on you know, your thoughts of that in the tattoo world versus the shoe world, and, you know, focusing on just being an amazing anime artist like Sean, or being well-rounded to handle absolutely everything. Not that Sean is only an anime artist.
Just put
Oh,
Sean in a
gotta have
box,
that in
bro.
there.
Not even
Yeah.
letting him reply.
No, I'm of the mindset, like I said, I've been tattooing 17 years. I've had 2 apprentices. You know, my apprentices, when they came in and they were with me, you know, for at least 2 years, they were
Mhm.
doing everything under the sun. Like I taught them,
Okay.
you know, traditional, black and gray, you know, color realism. Like I feel that you need, like I said, I out of the 17 years, I was tattooing everything that came in the door up until year 10. And then from
Okay.
year 10 to 17, I was getting more picky and more focused on what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But to piggyback on what you said, Dylan, like I think you need to be able to handle anything that comes to you. You know, like now I'm able to, you know, if someone wants a custom shoe and I have to like paint like, you know, little veins or
Yep.
make it look like the leather is actually torn and, you know, it
Mhm.
actually and you know I have that ability because I'm a painter. I know how to paint those details. You know, if you learned how to make a shoe but you don't know how to paint, I think it's a detriment to you because you know you're missing out on some good opportunities where you can really customize it. So I think it's very much the same. I personally hate it when you know a tattooer is a year old and like I only tattoo anime, and I'm like, you're limiting yourself.
Mhm.
I think you need to get a few more years in of doing everything before you can really pinpoint what you do. Because, you know, in that 10 years, you know, I learned, oh, I really don't like doing black and gray, you know,
Right.
but I had to do it for 2 years before I really thought, yeah, not my thing, you know. I think you really got to put in the time, put in the effort, and learn these things, and then you can focus on what you want to do after that.
Do
I
you
hope
think
I hope that answers it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tom, just so do you think that it's important while you're doing that, like while you're trying to figure out what you enjoy, do you think it's important to still have a social media presence and to show every step of that? Because just to elaborate for a second before I get your answer, like that's where I found myself now, was a lot of people really enjoyed when I was doing just shoes and I was getting great engagement on shoes, and that was never the plan. It was always a piece of the plan. And so for the last about year or so, it's been learning AR, it's been learning 3D. It's like even still now I'm going back and I'm learning how to apply like fundamentals like anatomy to 3D and how those forms can like coexist together aesthetically and conceptually, so I can make large scale projects and collaborate with people from different mediums. But what that ends up looking like to the public is nothing. It's because it's hard to make content about things you don't understand and that you're
Yeah.
learning about. Do you think it's still important to force yourself to find ways of showing that to the public, even if it's something that isn't aesthetically pleasing? Or do you think it's better to kind of stay quiet and keep to yourself until you learn those things?
I think it's better to show it the entire way. Like if you go, so I have two Instagram accounts, and the reason why I have 2 Bolaire ones is the one used to be the Bowman Tattoos. That's the one that's 100,000 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, I when I finally said, okay, I'm changing it over. I don't want to lose that account because I have a lot of followers on that, but I want it to be rebranded as another Bolaire's page. But if you go back on that page, you can go back 12 years, you're going to see the progression of me tattooing because the tattoos are still there if you keep scrolling down far enough. I think it's cool to show the progression. I think it's cool to see, you know, it's also like a litmus test where you can see, like you said, when you're posting shoes, people were loving that, but they might not be loving the AR stuff. So like when you get to the point where you are going to pick, you know, what you want to focus, you can go back there and say, oh, well, who engaged with these photos? Who, you know, what was the public's reaction to a lot of these things? And you go, okay, obviously they love, you know, the Ninja Turtle stuff, so I'm going to do more Ninja Turtle stuff. So it's a really good litmus test to see what the public likes that's following you.
That's sick. That's a beautiful
I
answer.
think a second page for just stuff like that is beneficial because that's something I've been thinking about myself.
Yeah.
It's a good idea, Sean.
Enzo does it. I love Enzo's work in progress page.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I actually, so Tom, I want to be respectful of your time, brother. We're coming up on that hour mark.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining, and it's kind of ridiculous the amount of like knowledge and conversations we packed into it in 55 minutes. But I really appreciate it. Yeah, no, I really appreciate you joining us, man. It means a lot, and appreciate you sharing your knowledge. I think you're a very beautiful person, and I love your work. So,
well, my wife thinks I'm a beautiful person too. In the other room. No, man, I love all you guys. You guys all do amazing work. So just to be, on this platform with you and having this conversation it's an honor for me, truly.
I'm sure it won't be the
Sure,
last time,
brother.
my man. Yeah.
No, I want to come back as much as possible. I got a lot to say.
Beautiful. Sounds good, guys.
Tom, I got one we got to end with.
Yeah.
How are we gonna bring an Ink Master production style show to the custom sneaker world as judges? Who do we got to talk to, man? What do we got to do?
God, I mean, so wasn't there a show that was like this, with the one guy from Wild Out with Nick Cannon? What was that show?
Yeah, they had one. It was called Sneaker Wars on MTV.
Yeah.
But I'm talking something that's a season long, not a singular episode, not a one-day event, a competition.
Yeah, so I would think that would be amazing. I mean, shoot me a DM. So I do still talk to Andrea. She's the showrunner of Ink Master.
Okay.
She's always looking for new pitches and stuff like that. If it's something that you definitely have a thought out more about it, hit me up, because I can get a meeting with her. I can get a meeting here. I've definitely thought about doing my own TV show where I'm just like creating these custom shoes for nerdy customers and celebrities, and I'm going to Comic-Cons and delivering them, and you have the whole celebrity. That would be really fun too. So
Definitely.
I still have my foot in the TV world, and I love all that stuff too. So
fucking awesome. You heard it here first, baby. Just keep this episode in mind.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Tom.
Thank you so much, Tom. Appreciate
All right,
it.
brother.
much.
Peace.
See you guys.